Welcome back, truth seekers, tricksters, groovy ghouls. How's it going? My name is Michael Parker. This is Dark Matter on Karma Air. Today is the 28th of October, and Halloween is in 3 days, and I'm guessing that everybody is looking forward to a lot of fun. But before there was Halloween, there was another holiday. I don't know if you'd even call it a holiday. That's actually not really the correct word for it, but it was called Samhain. And to explain Samhain, I've invited the person that I think is the most appropriate person to explain all this to us. And she is a friend of mine. Her name is Christine Jones. Today she's going to be on, and she's going to tell us about her religion, how she got involved in this, who her mentor was. And then she's going to explain how this idea of Samhain, what it meant to the pagans and people of ancient times, and how it has evolved into this secular holiday, which we know as Halloween. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show Christine Jones.
Hi, Michael.
How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I'm really going to enjoy this.
Well, tell me this now, because I've known you a couple of years, and you're actually, honestly, the first witch that I've ever known, and the discussions that I've had with you have always been very enlightening, and you're this wonderful, compassionate person, and there's a lot
sometimes.
Sometimes, absolutely. I mean, we all have those off days where we get a little edgy, but what I was going to say, there's a lot of misinformation out there, I believe, in the public about what witches are, and there are many different types. So maybe if you could tell us about your life, where you came from, and how you got involved in this.
Okay. I met up with the late Sybil Leek in 1977. She was the world's most famous witch at that time, and in some ways she still is. You know, she's still around, still in people's memories. Mm-hmm. I knew her from December the 21st at 10 p.m. in 1977. That is when I became a witch, until she died in 1986 on October the 26th. And she wanted to die on the 31st, but she didn't make it that far. Mm-hmm. Through her, I had an out-of-body experience at that 10 o'clock hour. And at that time, I experienced something it was phenomenal. What happened was, I know what happens at the point of death. Your memory banks are fully restored. Now, I experienced it. You then are taken by angels. She called them angels, or spirits, whatever you want to say. And you're taken to the realms of the god and goddess. You've got your memory bank, so you don't need anyone with a book or anything else. And you judge yourself. Nobody judges you. You say the whole thing. You have no control over it. The god and goddess are right in front of you. And then they evaluate what you've done in your life. So if when you were a kid you kicked the dog, and when you grew up you belonged to the Humane Society, you've done well. Mm-hmm. If you keep doing it, you've got bad karma. Mm-hmm. The next thing was I experienced love that nothing on earth could even go near it. And it's a sense of being loved. And then in a sort of ball of white light, I was returned to earth. The last thing I remember was my mother goddess holding my face in her hand, saying, "You are so loved."
Christine, the night you had this experience, this was the night that you became a witch?
Yes.
And Sybil Leek induced this
yes.
experience?
Yes.
How did she do that? Or did she do that?
She did. Yes, she did. 7 nights of intense concentration at 10 o'clock at night for 7 nights in a row before that. She took me back in time to when I was a child, bringing it forward. The happiest moments, the saddest moments, angry moments. It was a whole series. I've got it all written down. It's too long to go into. But it was fantastic. It went on for about half an hour each night at 10 o'clock until that 7th night, and it was December the 21st. It was the winter solstice. Uh-huh. But, of course, I didn't know that then. Then she invited me to come to Florida to be with her, and I did. I just uprooted everything, and off I went. Right. I didn't particularly care.
And how did you meet up with her? I mean, did you know that you wanted to become a witch, or?
I got into trouble. I went to a seance of some sort. I don't know what it was. where they were doing regressive hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And people be careful of regressive hypnosis. I got too deeply into it. I was doing it so far, and the lady who did it didn't know how to bring you out of it properly and left me in where I was. So I was stuck in a time warp. But in that time, I knew I became a witch. I was a witch. I knew I was a witch. And in the morning, I said, I'm a witch. My name is Keridwen. I knew my other name, but didn't know how all this happened. Had no idea.
You had tapped into a past life or something as a witch while under? Okay, I got you.
Had no idea what was happening. My roommate at the time, she said, what the hell are you talking about? Mm-hmm. She died since, and she couldn't get me away from it. It was constant. I went to New York. I had to see Herman Slater, who since died, and he had a witch store. And finally, I found a book by Sybil Leek, and I wrote to her, and she wrote back. And that's how that experience went into action. And I became a witch that night, and I've never looked back.
Wow. Okay.
The way she taught me the religion, and people need to hear this. We have a mother goddess and a father god who are equal in all ways, and we have none before them. Then we have gods and goddesses who rule over the birds, the sea, the lands, the sky, the universe. They don't have much to do with us here on earth. Then you have the 7 major families of archangels, one for each day of the week. Cassio, Aniel, Sachiel, Samuel, Gabriel, Raphael, and Michael. Mm-hmm. And every hour of every day is covered by one of those families. It's a table of angels that you can get and look at. And each person, according to their day, date, and hour of birth, has a guardian angel from their family. So you have to go to the hour of birth to find out who your angel is.
Okay.
And that angel family will stay with you from the day you are born till the day you die, and they'll take you for judgment. Then we say there are guardian angels, which are the angels who are in the process of learning, but they come down to earth to stay with us, to guard us through our lives. Mm-hmm. And we always have 1 or 2 or 3 with us. And then you have regular angels who are getting ready to come back to earth to reincarnate, because witches believe in reincarnation very firmly. Mm-hmm. The word witch means wise one. The word pagan is a truncated form of the word pagani. It's Latin for one who dwells in the country. Heathen is heathen, one who dwells on the heath. A coven is a covenstead or meeting place where witches meet. The cauldron is the cooking pot that used to be in the Middle Ages when they walked across the heath to cook. The witch would carry a cauldron, a cooking pot, and they didn't put bat's wings or anything like that. They probably put a chicken in there or something like that. The broom is used to sweep the ground before we do worship. Mm-hmm. Nothing sinister. The word spell, it simply means a period of time when we concentrate intently for one thing and one thing only. Now, Christians do the same as we do when they pray, but they pray for multiple things. We focus on one. Concentration. So a spell means a period of time. Look it up in the dictionary.
Right. Now, go sit down for a spell.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a period of time. That's all it means. The witch's hat, the conical hat, came at the time when they made fun of us, when they started the persecution, and the conical hats were in fashion then, so anyone who wore a conical hat was out of step. In 1484, Pope Innocent VIII issued a papal bull, and it was bull, stating that it was the thing to do to kill witches. Mm-hmm. He then proceeded to make it a law. And he went on doing this. There were 9 million people killed, and many of them weren't witches.
My God, that is a huge amount of people.
It's a huge amount, and I'll tell you the rest. He then decided it was unfashionable to murder people for their religion, so he lifted this dogma or bull, whatever it was, But they then proceeded to write our history.
Yeah.
That's like the Nazis writing the history of the Jews.
Yes.
And they wrote trash. And they've never to this day have they apologized to us. They should be down on their knees saying they're sorry. Look at their own disgrace with the pedophiles throughout the church.
Certainly.
And they've never said they're sorry to the witches who hadn't done anything to anyone.
Last week, our guest that was on the show is an astrologer, and he was talking about many pieces of art within the Vatican that actually show the astrological signs and symbols clearly, and, they were waving the finger at us not to get involved with this or that.
Yeah. And the early popes used to practice angel magic.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Now, that's a mind blower, I'm sure, to many people.
Yeah. Because the angels, the archangels, the seven majors, each have gifts that they give to man, and you can freely ask of them. Castiel does real estate, takes care of the elderly, sick, and infirm, and he finds missing persons and lost children. Aniel's the angel of love, lovers, lust, and friendship. We don't deny lust.
Right. Well, yeah.
Sachiel is health and wealth. Who's our next one?
Let me just interrupt for a second. You guys, we are speaking with Christine Jones. She is a witch. We're going to be talking about the origins of Halloween. Actually, it used to be called Samhain and means different things. And right now, Christine is explaining her beliefs and her background as a witch. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christine.
Yeah, Raphael does legal matters, the arts and poetry. Sachiel does health and immediate wealth. No, wealth and immediate health. So if you're immediately sick, he is the one to go to. Michael, he does music, physical development, and of course is the best known as the angels. Mm-hmm. Gabriel is about pregnancy and travel by water. Samuel is rather one of my favorites. He's the one that comes from Mars. He's the great guardian of strength.
Samuel comes from Mars?
Yes.
Well, and Mars is strength and warfare and things of that nature, I guess, typically in astrology.
Yes, and he's the angel. He takes care of factory workers.
Interesting.
He takes care of your cars, and he does machinery. And he will go after bad bosses.
Good.
If you have somebody attacking you, this is where you go.
All right.
Raphael, legal matters, the arts and poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Castiel is my actual guardian, and he finds missing persons and lost children, real estate, and he takes care of the elderly and the dying.
Well, Christine, tell me this. As a witch, what type of a witch would you say you were, and what types are there?
I'm solitary.
Okay.
I like to be by myself, but I join in covens at certain times. I will. There's all kinds of Celtic, Dianic, Gardnerian. There's so many different covens, just like the Christians have different churches.
Certainly.
We have different covens, and we have covens for gay people, Dianic, and then we have, I forget what the guys is. They've got the yellow triangle. The men have their own covens too. If they're gay and they don't want to interact with us, they've got their own covens, so we don't deny anyone their right to worship.
Right.
And that's fair.
Absolutely.
Some people say, what? How can you deny anyone the right to pray or be in a group when they need to pray?
I would agree with that.
So we have all of that.
Well, let me ask you this. As a practicing solitary witch, what does a witch typically do? I know you are also a clairvoyant, you're a writer, you do many things, but just so those of us and there's a lot of folks who don't know the first thing actually about witches other than the stereotypical symbol that they've seen. So what does one practicing this craft do typically? I mean, what goes on in the life of a solitary witch, and how do you practice?
Well, perfectly normal through the daytime. On Halloween, of course, it will be very different because I will shut my windows and pull the drapes, and I light 4 white candles to the corners of the earth. Michael to the south, Oriel to the north, Raphael to the east, and Gabriel to the west.
Okay.
At the top part of the pentagram is God and Goddess, and the center is the person wearing it. So I will light my four corners, and then you do a ritual. I have a ritual sword, which is symbolic of the male, and the chalice is symbolic of the female.
Mm-hmm.
So I do my ritual quietly by myself. You pray for wisdom. Now, Halloween or Hallows Eve or Samhain is the night on earth when the veil between life and death is the thinnest, and the old ones return to us, to earth, to help us. And we ask them for help, we ask them for their guidance, and we tell them our needs. And it's a very holy night to us. I don't care really that people dress up, that's okay. But I don't think they'd like it if we did things like that at Christmas.
Right.
I have that weird feeling.
Right.
That they would kind of go, what?
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of ignore them. Occasionally witches join in the fun, and they have Halloween, they have their own fancy dress balls, and it's very funny when they do. But I kind of wonder if it will ever come to the realization that they are actually stepping on somebody's holy day. I don't think people realize that.
No, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about in this show. We're going to go to a break in just probably about a minute, but I mean, that's one of the things I want to talk about, because Halloween didn't start out as Halloween. It started out as Samhain, and I was hoping that maybe you could explain what that was and what some of the other sabbats
Samhain
were.
and Halloween are one and the same. That's the other name for it.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We're speaking with Christine Jones. She is a witch. We are talking about Halloween, Samhain. We are talking about paganism and what a witch does and how they live. And we are going to take a quick break. Welcome back, Truth Seekers. It is Dark Matter here on Karma Air. We are speaking with Christine Jones, who is a witch, and we are talking about Halloween and its origins and the life of a witch. And right before we left for our break, we were talking a little bit about what Christine would be doing on Halloween and what other witches might be doing. So, Christine, you said that you would actually be inside and that you would light 4 candles to the 4 directions.
Yeah, 4 corners, and the one for the Mother Goddess and the Father God, and one representing myself. That is the pentagram, the 5-star, the 5-pointed star.
So so what you're saying, the pentagram, the five points are the 4 points of the 4 directions.
The 4 archangels.
And then the 5th is the individual?
And there's the Mother Goddess and Father God to the top point.
Okay.
And the middle of the pentagram is the person wearing it.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So when you say the goddess and the Father God, you are still talking about 2 entities, but they are part of the same, I would suppose, I guess, or no?
They are energy forms. They are not people.
Right. No, I understand that, but I
a lot of people don't, though. They somehow want to humanize God.
Certainly.
They have this need to do that.
Yes.
I don't. The Mother Goddess and the Father God are vast energy, but they're together. And it makes sense because we're male and female. And the Father made the male and the Mother made the female. It makes sense. And they're equal in all ways. We have none before them.
Okay, I understand.
So I have a perfect understanding of what all that means. And then the gods and goddesses who do the land, the sea, the birds, the sky, the universe, and then the archangels who are over us, as it were, taking care of us. Okay.
And when you are doing this ritual, or I'm not sure what you would call it exactly.
Ritual.
It is a ritual. What else will you be doing on that evening? Just some quiet meditation, or?
On the first point, I would say thank you for what they have given us in the past month. Second point, I would ask for the help I needed and the guidance I needed. The third point, I'd ask the people who were my friends who I thought needed help. And the 5th point is adoration of the God and Goddess.
It's amazing because everything you're talking about is all beneficial. And I think that most people when they picture the idea of witch or witchcraft, they're thinking of black arts and negative and evil and things of that nature. And they're not, when you use the word angels and witch in the same context, I think there's some people who just go, what the heck?
I said that to Sybil one day because you remember I went straight from, not being a witch to being a witch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the living room and I said to her, I thought, very innocently, I thought angels were Christian, and she looked at me like thunder.
Right.
She said, they stole them from us.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Well, let me ask you this.
And it's true.
Should they even be called angels, or is there another word that should be used for them?
No.
Okay.
Angels or spirits. No, I'm perfectly comfortable with angels and spirits. And as she said, witches had angels long before Christians. They stole them from us. They stole one of our white Wiccan ceremonies is now their Mass. And if you notice that the Sanctus they call the 9 orders of angels are called in the Catholic Church. They talk about the archangels. They are archangels. They snafu'd them from us.
Mm-hmm.
They are Gabriel. They made him the angel of pregnancy because they wanted to make it somehow that the Madonna, was seen by this angel, which the pagans of those days would understand because it was one of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And they used these sneaky ways to sort of coerce them into becoming Christians.
As they did with other cultures and other peoples.
Yes, and I object. And I'm waiting for them to apologize. If they're out there listening, apologize.
I mean, I appreciate that. I don't think it's going to happen, but I definitely...
I wrote to the Pope and told him to apologize. I don't care.
Did you get any kind of a response?
Of course not.
Not even a form letter?
No.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the idea of paganism, because you told us that came from the word pagane. Okay. Explain that a little bit. Because
Latin.
I get that, but I mean, just what paganism actually is, because a lot of these holidays that we celebrate now were initially pagan days of different names. So explain that, because some people are just not going to be aware of this.
Yeah, well, Hallows Eve, Samhain, is actually All Souls Day now they call it. All Souls Day. In England they have All Saints Day and then All Souls Day.
Mm-hmm.
So they changed that. Easter is Astera, the goddess of the East, and her symbols are the rabbit and the egg.
Ta-da!
It all comes from us. Christmas was originally on December the 21st, and it was Mithras, the god of light, the sun god, S-U-N god, and they turned it into the son of God. Imbolc is Candlemas now, the Feast of Lights, but that was ours too, Imbolc. So all of your festivals are based on pagan holidays. I don't know any that aren't.
And in many cases, these days had to do with fertility and growth or harvest.
Especially Easter, Astera, the rabbit and the egg. Of course, the rabbit is extremely fertile.
Yes, it is.
It's a very fertile animal. My uncle used to keep them.
Well, and the deal is, I mean, because people would have to say, I mean, listen, okay, yes, we have this Santa Claus that comes around on the 25th. What does that have to do with, the typical Christian story? And then on the other hand, you've got Easter. Where did rabbits and eggs enter the picture? And this is where it came from.
Yes, it came from us.
Pagan
what
symbols.
What other holidays have we got that we missed?
Well, I think we mentioned most of them. Talk a little bit more about Samhain, because from my understanding, Samhain, as you said, was the night when the veil between the living and the dead is thinnest. So, but at the same time, this also kind of recognized when the harvest was in and the days are becoming shorter.
Yes, exactly. Our mages, the bats, the 4 main ones are Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane, and Lammas. And that is, Lammas is summer, Samhain is autumn, Imbolc is winter, and Beltane is spring.
And Imbolc, is that the same thing as the winter equinox, or no?
No. It's the Feast of Candlemas, and it's February the 2nd.
Oh.
Catholic Church Candlemas. where you have the candles,
Yes.
the anointing of the throat.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. Yeah, I get it. And you actually were originally Catholic. I mean, that's what you were
Yes.
brought up as a child, correct?
Yes,
And this was back in England?
yes.
Yeah.
In a very rigid Roman Catholic home. So rigid I felt like I was being choked.
Well,
And I just got out. I mean, I just knew it wasn't for me, and I got out early.
a lot of people that grew up Catholic say similar things. And listen, I have, I'm not here to knock anyone's religion necessarily, but an oppressive religion is not necessarily a progressive religion.
Correct. We have another thing. When people first join the craft, I didn't have that experience because I was with Sybil one-on-one. But they have a group called Pagans in Recovery. And these are people who've come from all kind of walks of life and all different religions. And you hear the horror stories. Some of them got locked in closet in Sunday school because they misbehaved. All these things. And they're Pagans in Recovery, and they literally talk it out. And it goes on for about 3 months until we feel they're safe and they're able to deal with things normally.
Yeah, that sounds like other things I've heard of, but that's a good thing. Well, I tell you what, we're going to have to take a quick break. In the second hour, I want to talk a little bit more about witches and witchcraft, and if there really is this designation between white witchcraft and black witchcraft, and why that is so, and what it involves, and just anything that you can tell us to help those of us who know very little about this to have a better understanding of it.
This is not a test. Dark Matter with Michael Parker. We'll be right back.
This is Richard Roundtree, and you're listening to KarmaAir.com.
Welcome back to Dark Matter on Karma Air, coming to you as always from an undisclosed location high above the Sunset Boulevard, somewhere in sunny Southern California. The place where, even though we live in a glass house, we do not cast stones. Anyway, before we left the first hour, we were talking about some different subjects of witches and paganism and Samhain, which became Halloween. And I believe that during the break, we actually got an email question. My producer Jerry's here holding a document that must be an emailed question. Jerry, do we have a question over there for Christine?
Michael, yes, we do. Hi, Christine.
Hi.
This question is from Jean in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and she was wondering about the pentagram and how upside down it's supposed to be the devil's symbol. And what is the witch's take on that?
I don't like upside down pentagrams. I like straight up positive energy. Michael, Oriel, Raphael, Gabriel, the Mother Goddess and Father God at the top point. The person is in the center. The circle is the circle of reincarnation. I only ever have my pentagram upright. If people want to turn it upside down, I guess whatever blows their skirts up or whatever makes them happy, but I don't like it because you're inverting the energy.
So
Turning it to negative energy, and I'm not happy with that.
So in all of witchcraft, the upside down pentagram plays no role. Is that
Not
correct?
really, no.
Okay.
So that's just kind of like an urban myth that an upside down pentagram is
It's negative energy. You're invoking negative.
because a lot of people or in a lot of pop culture you've then seen the goat maybe superimposed upon the upside down pentagram.
Yeah, I've seen it. I don't.
So that's
I don't
just
stand for
nonsense.
that.
It's just nonsense, or
Yeah, when they want to do that, it's more like a younger person would do it, like the Gothics or something
Sure.
like that, or people who want to make some kind of statement.
right.
And when they're doing it, then the police find it on walls and in forests when they make the pentagrams upside down. They're making a statement that they're doing something negative.
I understand. Well, let me ask you this. I know that the work that you do is beneficial and you're about positivity and compassion.
Right.
But there are folks that are involved in the dark side
Oh, yes.
as well, correct?
Oh, yes.
Now, personally, I can't imagine wanting to tap into that side of things, but why do some witches decide to go that route? Is it just power or
Usually not witches who are doing it. It's usually other people. It's
politicians?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's usually not regular witches won't be doing negative energy because We have a golden rule: do as you will, harm ye none, least of all thyself. We say if you do negative magic on somebody else, look out for the snake bite.
It comes right back at you.
So we don't do it. So it's other people who do it. One day, right here on the beach in Melbourne, I was in India Atlantic, walking on the beach, and I almost stood on this scissor blade that was sticking up in the ground. And I looked down, and somebody had made a human head and a chest, and they put hair, and they put eyes and teeth, and they had stuck a garden scissor into the heart of the person. And I knew immediately what it was. It was from the Caribbean. So I stood there and I thought, oh, hell. So I quickly circled it and broke what they were doing, because when the tide came in and took it, that person would probably die.
Oh, my God.
Well, I made the mistake of going to BCC College. I used to lecture there 4 and 5 times a year at World Religions, and I told the audience what I had found. About 3 days later, I became deathly sick. So I'd upset some voodoo artist who heard me in the audience and obviously took exception. And when I got home, there was a horrific message on my telephone in another language. And it said, "Die, witch, die," at the end of it. And the police had to come and take the tape. And they had to escort me to work at night. And they weren't very amused, but I got to be friendly with them, so they would watch me at night. But die, witch, die.
Wow. That's...
So, witches are usually undoing other people's bad magic.
Mm-hmm.
But our rule of 3, do as you will, harm ye none, least of all thyself.
And that's an absolutely positive message.
That's our rule.
Now, let me ask you this. Did, in your life, have people come to you asking you to undo spells or things of this nature that they feel have been put upon them?
Yes. Yes, they have. Or they've come and asked me to do things to people.
Right.
And I look at them and say, no, I don't harm other people. If you want to do that, you do it yourself. Mm-hmm. It's on your head, not mine. I won't do it.
Good.
If it comes to undoing bad magic, if it's possible, I will. But it's not always easy, because you've got to know who sent it out. So what you have to do is to send the healing and correction into the ether, hopefully in the right direction. It's not always easy. And people get in a lot of trouble doing black magic. They do.
I would think so. I mean, it's...
horrible.
It's spooky as heck to me, man. It gives me the creeps big time.
I don't like it, and I won't do it.
Good. Well, let me ask you this. Let's talk about some other things that people I know are going to be curious about. You mentioned early in the show that you had once been involved, I think, in a seance, and you said that they were doing regressive hypnosis. Mm-hmm. I guess my first question, just kind of playing devil's advocate here, well, why were they doing aggressive hypnosis? Because, and the only reason I say that is because if you're doing that within the course of a seance, surely the skeptic could come up and say, well, listen, if you're hypnotizing people, then how do you know anything actually happened? Perhaps these were ideas or images that were placed into the heads of the folks that were there.
No. This was a seance of about 13 or 14 men and women, male, female, male, female. It was a correctly done seance, holding hands.
Okay.
The woman who did it wasn't trained in how to do it. And this is how I got hurt. I didn't know anything about it. This was actually my first beginning experiences. Dr. Raymond Buckland is a dear friend of mine, and he's very good at spiritualism. He's actually away this weekend, and I won't say where or he'd kill me.
Right. I would like to have you and he on the show at some point again. I mean, if you were willing to come on, I'd love to have you and he on. Because
he, in my mind, is the epitome of witchcraft, and he's written so many wonderful books where you can read everything you want to know. Anyhow, back to this seance. What this woman did, she taught us how to get into a hypnotic state. And then what happened, she asked people what they were seeing. And I was susceptible because I was fascinated, and I went very deep. And I realized I was a witch. I saw myself burning on the stake. Then I saw an Irish lady with a headscarf on sitting in the corner. I was so sort of fascinated, but what she didn't know was when you do hypnosis, you have to bring the person out of it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
When she did it, she walked us down steps using our minds,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't walk us back up the steps.
Gotcha.
And so I was stuck.
Kind of in limbo between this plane and the other.
Correct.
But living in this one, still part of you being in the other.
Yes. It was horrible. It was a very bad experience.
How long did that go on?
It went on for close to a year.
So how do you live while that's going on? What would happen to you while that was happening?
I'll tell you what happened. My roommate, she died very young. I came awake the next morning, and I walked into the living room, and I said, "I'm a witch. My other name is Caradwin." And she said, "What the hell were you drinking?"
Right.
Exactly what she said.
Mm-hmm.
And she was an RN too. She was a cardiac nurse, and she died of heart disease.
It's interesting.
And yeah, it was very sad. And she said, "What's wrong with you, Chris?" And she flicked her hand across my face, and I guess she didn't get very much of a blink. And she said, "What were you doing last night?" I said, "Oh, it was just a seance, and I wanted to get back and go there and do it again." She didn't see any danger in it. The next week I went back to it, and I went deeper and deeper and deeper, each time not being regressed out of it. And finally I couldn't work because I couldn't think, except that I was a witch and I had to find out what to do. I want to go to New York, and I made her take me to New York and go and see Herman Slater. I got books from him, and I said to him, I walked to his store and I said, "I'm a witch." He said, "So what?" I said, "My other name is Caradwin." He said, "The nature goddess." I said, "Oh, she's real?" And he said, "Yeah." "What happened?" And I told him, and he said, "Well, you've had an unfortunate experience." And he was kind of concerned. But then I found Sybil's book in the bookstore in Mattawan, and I wrote to her, and I received a letter almost by return mail saying she would help me and get me out of it, and she did, on December the 21st of 1977 at 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
I came out of it, and I was fine.
And you went on from then to practice as a witch and learn more about...
I never looked back.
Right.
It's like my skin. Your religion is your whole being.
Mm-hmm.
If you really believe in it's like my skin, it's my soul.
Well, I mean, I think that's what it should be. And that's one of the things about religion that sometimes concerns me is that people posture within it sometimes without being fully touched by it. And I don't know. I mean, you can go through the motions of religion quite easily without having actually...
You can't if you're a witch.
Right. No, I wasn't saying that. I was thinking more about...
Yeah, I know what you're saying. People go to church and they just mumble.
Right. Or sleep through it with a hangover, and they were there.
Snore.
And I'm not knocking anybody. I mean, hey, listen, I consider myself a Christian. I went to church, but I have to admit, there were many times when as a child, I would sit there in church and I was like, I couldn't connect really. I mean, I understood it, but it wasn't touching me on a deep, profound level.
Yeah, you were too little.
Yeah, and I mean, quite honestly, other things in my life touched me on a deeper level. Like the first time I heard a really incredible piece of music or something like that, I was like all of a sudden, or even like riding a roller coaster or something. I mean, religion to me should have some type of engulfing feeling, which is what it sounds like you are describing.
Yeah. If you go to a witch meet where they're all together, like sometimes you get 300 to 500 together, when the ritual takes place, nobody is excluded. Everyone is in circles, so you have a huge circle of active people taking part in the ritual. Nobody gets to sit down and look pretty. Mm-hmm. You get up and you're doing it and you're part of it. And Hallows Eve is they get a mirror and they darken it and they make you stand in front of it and look at yourself. Mm-hmm. So every person walks around going by the mirror and looking at themselves. Some of them like to jump the fire. We have the fires that people jump. We have the cauldron. Now we put in things that are negative that we don't want to do anymore, and at the end of the ritual they'll burn them. And then you put the positive thoughts. You've got your positive as well.
Let me ask you this. Right now, or at this point in your life, how many witches do you stay in contact with?
Oh, lots.
Lots. How do you guys stay in touch with each other? And when you do convene or talk, what do you guys converse about?
Witchcraft?
Yeah. Yeah.
I talk to Morgana. This is one of my favorite witches. She's really a nice lady, and she's got COPD. She's got a rough health problem. But her name is really Morgana, which
is
makes
amazing.
me laugh like crazy. It's
Right.
funny. Oh, we talk on the phone. We email each other. But mostly we talk on the phone. The subject is almost invariably witchcraft.
Certainly.
It's sort of in your blood. Witches talk about witchcraft.
So,
We have kitchen witches who like to do spells in the kitchen. I like that one where you put peppercorns. If you put peppercorns in a slow cooker and you want to get somebody to think about you, bring it to a boil, and you, as soon as the peppercorns are boiling, you infuse the water and the peppercorns with the thought of the person you want to call you. Then you turn it off, and then they will call you.
this is brilliant. You know what?
Concentrate.
You know what? You just provided the perfect segue. When we come back for the next segment, I want you to tell us some of the spells that you've done, and I know that you just do beneficial ones, but explain more just like you just did, because I know a lot of people are going to be fascinated by that. Christine, let's return to that spell you were just talking about using the peppercorns. If you could just explain that again, because I know there's some of our listeners out there like, oh man, I really wish I knew how to do that one. So if you could return to that one for just a second.
Okay, you got a few peppercorns and a crock or a crock pot or a pan of water. Put the peppercorns in the crock and pan of water. Bring it to a boil. Keep it simmering. As you do this, you think of the person that you want to call or contact you. If you intensify the boiling, it will intensify the person's thoughts of you. And then you turn off the pan, the crock pot, and wait for the person to call you. Brian, a friend of mine, he's a musician. He did it, and he needed a guy to call him about drum practice.
Mm-hmm.
And he called him within 20 minutes.
Wow.
And he said this guy would never, ever call him.
That's amazing.
Now, how about some money magic? Let's throw this out there.
Yeah, let's bring that on real quick.
This was Sybil Leek's original spell. She taught me this herself.
I have a pen in my hand. I'm ready to go.
You need one large dark green candle.
One dark green candle.
You need a $5 bill.
Okay.
You need a wide-based candle holder or saucer.
Okay, a wide-based candle holder or saucer.
Or saucer. Make sure it's safe. Put these down where they can remain undisturbed, so you don't touch them once you start.
Yep.
Time to do this spell from the new to the full moon. For spells of increase, you should be working on a waxing moon.
Okay, from new to a full moon for increasing things.
Right, correct. You place the $5 bill under the candle so it's sandwiched between the base of the candle and the candle holder. Only once a day you light the candle using your index finger of your right hand, and you trace a circle clockwise around the candle, saying, as the wax on this candle melts, so will this money increase. Say this 3 times, and then leave the candle to burn for an hour or so. During the time the candle is burning, look at the candle often and visualize the money flowing freely and abundantly. Do not think of any specific sum or method by which you will get it.
Uh-huh.
Because don't stand there and say, well, I want the lottery. That won't work. You just leave it free. When you feel enough time has passed, take your index finger, going clockwise again, say 3 times, as this money flows to me. And then you snuff the candle out. In magic, you don't blow it because you've blown away the magic. And if you haven't got a snuffer, wet your fingers.
Right.
So that's candle. Now, the next one, this is a good one, the herb myrtle, Myrtle.
Okay.
We call it flirtle. You just get the herb. You can buy it in the health food store. The person you desire, you strew it along the path where you know they're going to walk. You can even drop it indoors if you're careful.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they walk over that area, they will immediately have affections and thoughts of you, flirtatious thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
as they walk the path. Now, rosemary, the herb rosemary is very good sleeping. You know, you buy it in Publix or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
You just need a little bit of that. If you can't sleep, rosemary induces very good sleep.
Really? Ooh, that's good to know. So I could buy some rosemary at a store, and what? I just want to put it in a plate by my bed or something,
No,
so I can
you
get
just make it in tea. You make regular tea with it.
Oh, okay.
Just put a few sprigs in and pour boiling. Well, no, water that's almost boiling, because if you put boiling on, you'll burn the herb. So you put almost boiling water on, steep it for about 5 minutes, and then drink. It tastes good.
Well, I love the smell of rosemary. Let me ask you this. What about spells of protection? If one wants to protect their family or themselves, if they think something might be someone or someone is maybe up to no good in regards to them.
The age-old standby is garlic.
Okay.
You take a clove of garlic, and you cut it in very thin slices, not anything thick, and you put a piece of garlic in every corner of every room in your house.
Interesting, okay.
And it blocks negative energy. It keeps negative out. The next thing you can do is put sea salt. If you have a house, you put sea salt around the outside of the house, around the perimeter.
The entire house?
Yes.
Okay. And are you saying if we had the sea salt, we're literally making a line all the way around the house?
Correct.
Okay. Like a little trail.
Go clockwise.
And do it clockwise.
Clockwise. But the garlic is the one I've got. I'm not lying. I have garlic in every corner of my house. Anyone can walk in now and they'd see it.
Interesting.
And now I'll tell you about mistletoe.
Well, you are clairvoyant, because that was going to be one of the things I was going to ask you. So, yeah, let's hear about mistletoe.
If you carry mistletoe into a haunted house, the spirits of the house will manifest themselves to you.
No kidding.
It's an interesting concept. Arises if you suspect a house is haunted, you can use this method. The second story goes way back in time. The pagan people used to bring mistletoe into their homes during winter to give the spirits of the forest refuge from the cold. And it's become the love bug now.
Yes. So, okay, so you're saying in the days of old, when they were bringing the mistletoe in to give refuge to these spirits, were they hanging it in doorways, which became this kissing tradition, or?
Probably did, yeah. They had it in their houses to give the spirits of the forest refuge from the cold.
Fascinating.
Ivy, this is the next one.
Okay.
It's said to have magical properties. For instance, if it's found growing on a concrete post, it can be removed and placed around the head to ease headache. Ivy was also part of the headdress worn by Roman warriors.
Mm-hmm.
Lavender. This is said to be I would say there are more haunted houses in England than anywhere else in the world. The English people are quaint to begin with. They're mildly eccentric.
Okay.
And in my homeland, to smell lavender in a house indicates that it is haunted. Of course, lavender grows in profusion in England and has many uses. For example, lavender bags are made and placed in drawers to make underwear smell sweet. Sometimes it's turned into lavender water. My mother used to have that when I was young. They make soap and bath cubes.
Yes.
And lavender bags can be placed under your pillow for restful sleep and good dreams. Cloves. If you have a sore throat, the type you use in ham, put them in a mug of almost boiling water. Allow them to steep for approximately 3 minutes. Drink the water. Take the cloves out and drink it. It will numb your throat.
Fantastic.
It removes the pain. Bucca leaves for rheumatism, an excellent remedy. And you buy them in the health food store and you make tea out of them again. And it really relieves rheumatism.
And all of all of this kind of herbal and use of plants, is there a particular type of magic that this is called?
Well, there's some witches who call it kitchen witches.
Uh-huh.
It's herbal magic, but it's magic. It's herbs used in magic.
Okay.
Witches have to have a knowledge of herbs. They must.
Yes.
And I have a very good one. I know how to recognize them in the wild. I know deadly nightshade. It has purple flower with a yellow center. And it grows wild all over the place, but it's supposed to be illegal.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, the police don't recognize it. They ride right by it. And I go, oh, you just went right on by.
Well, you brought up an interesting subject just a few minutes ago. You said mistletoe and haunted houses, and that made me think of a question I wanted to ask you, because I know that you've also been involved in some ghost hunting. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that as well, like explain some of the entities that you've encountered or just some experiences that you've had in the ghost hunting that you have done.
I've gone through some very weird psychic experiences, and one of them happened to me. A friend of mine, Patty Richardson, I don't know if she's out there listening. It would be hysterical if she is. She wanted me to go to this man's house because these friends of hers said that he murdered their stepmother, or their mother. That was it. She said his name was Roger Mansfield, and he's still out there. If he's listening, God help me, because he's free now. And Patty said to me, let's go to his house and you see if he did it. Use your psychic abilities. So we took toilet rolls and sandwiches, and we went sailing up to this guy's house and banged on the door. He was home. He hadn't been arrested then, and we went inside. Well, inside were his two sons and him. And what happened next was horrible. I looked at him, and I, for once, lost control. And I went into a trance with no control on. I was completely out. And I said, you killed her. You took the necklaces. She had gold necklaces. She had 3 of them. I said, and I put my hands to my neck, and I closed my hands around my pentagram chain, and I said, and you strangled her like this. And when I came to, the man was sitting on the floor. he kind of passed out.
Wait a minute, okay. You had passed out, and he had passed out.
He passed out when I described how he had murdered his wife.
And the 2 sons were there in the room, and what did they do?
They just looked open-mouthed, and Patty was panic-struck. She kept saying, we got to leave. I'm sitting there saying, what? Because I was still not coming to.
Yeah.
We have to go now.
Was this man eventually sentenced, or?
Yeah.
So he was found guilty of this crime?
Yes, he murdered his wife, and he was away for a number of years. I believe he's out now. I hope he's all right and he's reformed, but...
Holy cow.
I lost at that time. I went into a trance without not an ounce of control.
Well, tell me about any ghosts or apparitions or entities that you've encountered and what happened.
Well, that was one. It was his wife that I saw.
Oh, so you actually,
I saw her.
Okay. All right. You guys, my name is Michael Parker. This is Dark Matter. We're speaking with Witch Christine Jones. We've been talking about Halloween. We've been talking about paganism, witchcraft. Right now she's talking about apparitions and ghosts and hauntings that she has witnessed. So this woman actually appeared to you, because I misunderstood you.
Yes, she was there in the room with us.
Wow.
And she was standing in front of me, showing me her gold necklaces and showing how he did it.
Oh, boy.
I was completely oblivious to anyone else in the room except her. I was just looking at her and saying what she told me.
Now, when you're looking at her, what does this woman, this apparition, look like? Does it look like the stereotypical translucent ghost that we see on television?
Yeah, it looked like her, actually.
And she was clothed in just normal street clothes?
It was sort of clothes, but luminous. It was light. And she seemed like a very nice lady.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but more recently, I had a bizarre experience. I've been in Holmes Regional Hospital. I had a lot of surgery and stuff done. And they put me on to Lauded. Well, I hallucinated like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I was allergic to it. And I have never seen so many disincarnate spirits wandering through my room. It was weird.
Now, this is in the hospital. This
In the
occurs.
hospital.
Now, these discarnated spirits, are these perhaps people
People
that?
who had died there.
Holy cow!
I knew what it was. I saw one was a nurse's aide. She had blue uniform on, and she had like reddish gold hair. And I had a mirror in front of my bed, and I could see half of her. She sort of went past me through the mirror, and I was watching, and I thought, what do I do in this instance? There were so many of them, and I thought, well, close your eyes and pray.
Yeah.
And I think that priests and religious ministers should bless hospitals at least 3 or 4 times a year to settle these spirits down.
So, you do believe that when a priest bless a home or a building or something?
Oh, yeah.
And you say it settles these spirits. What do you mean by that? Do you mean that it helps them on their way? I'm sorry?
It calms things down.
But it doesn't release them from where they're at, does it?
It can do sometimes, so that takes more work. I mean, if you're going to release a person from the earth, you've got to work at it. That's something you have to do separately. It's a ceremony you do.
And would you encourage people generally, say if they move into a new home or something, to actually get the house blessed?
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
I put garlic down. I don't have my home. I bless it myself.
And you said with the garlic, you just take those cloves and you shave them finely and put them in every corner of every room.
Right.
And that's simple enough.
Oh, this is a very good one, the witch's pot.
Okay.
This is the best one to repel anyone doing anything to you. It's really good. You need a 6-ounce screw-top coffee jar. And you need post office tape, sufficient to seal the top of the jar.
Okay.
In the jar, you put half full of nails, broken glass, anything sharp objects, razor blades. Then you fill the jar half full of the above items. Then you fill it to the top with your own urine. And if possible, you add a few drops of blood.
Holy cow.
Menstrual blood if you're a female. If you're a male, prick your finger.
Uh-huh.
Then you screw the top and seal it with post office tape. Then place it in the ground at least 1 foot down and cover it with dirt and leave it. And that's all you have to do. And you do not direct negative energy at anyone. The jar will do its own thing.
Okay, I'm fascinated. What is the jar doing? I mean, and why those particular objects?
Negative, sharp points, things that repel people, glass, broken glass, things like that. The blood, your own blood, repelling.
Yeah.
You have to do absolutely nothing. I've never seen it fail to work. I usually put the one down in the ground outside my house about every 6 months to sort of regenerate the strength.
Yep.
I've never had any trouble. It's amazing.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Dr. Buckland writes that one in his books. He writes these wonderful books.
Yeah, we need to get him on the show, definitely.
This is not a test. Dark Matter with Michael Parker. We'll be right back.
This is our last segment. My name is Michael Parker. We are speaking with Christine Jones. She is a witch. We've been talking about Halloween. We've been talking about Samhain. And we had a interesting email come in for Christine, and this is from Sandra in Cincinnati. And Sandra was asking Christine if the midnight hour of Halloween really if that particular time period has any real meaning.
Yes, it does.
Okay, now my next, the thing she was posing is, well, would that be from the 30th to the 31st, or is it the 31st over to the 1st?
31st to the 1st.
And what does this mean? What happens at that
Well, the
time?
midnight hour is the gathering of all the energies come together at the 1 hour, because it's going from one day to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get a lot of power at the midnight hour. Most witches on that night will do their rituals at midnight.
And these, as you were saying earlier, these could be rituals where asking for knowledge, or we are thanking for previous gifts.
You thank for previous gifts. You thank them for what they've given you. You ask for their knowledge, because this is a big night for that, because it's the old ones are returning, and they're coming to Earth. They're close to us.
Mm-hmm.
They will impart their knowledge, so you ask them for it, and you will get it that night. And I almost forgot the origin of the pumpkin.
Yes, let's hear that.
That was in the olden days when they were going to the Covensteads over the heaths. They used to use turnips. They carved them out and they put candles in them so that they could see their way, because they didn't have flashlights in those days. So they would use turnips carved out.
Fascinating.
To travel to their covens. No biggie.
Right, but still very interesting. There's always a lot of people out, and they're in costume and they'll be running around and children will be getting the candy and other people will be at parties or acting nutty or whatever they're doing. What can we do to honor? Are there offerings that we can leave to say thank you to our predecessors or the angels that have helped us besides just the ritual?
You really can't, because they're energy forms. So incense is the big one we use, because that travels upwards into the ether. It goes into the air. And
what's the best kind to use?
To our God. And I have jasmine. I have fires of love. I sometimes use money incense. I have all different kinds. I like jasmine and the fires of love.
Well, that's...
Oh, and then mirror magic. That's another one. Always keep a mirror handy by the phone. If someone calls you and you feel uncertain of the way they are talking, hold the mirror against the phone, and it reflects their words back to them.
Wow.
This is mean.
That's rad. So are you saying that somebody calls me and they're mad at me or they're lying to me, and I hold the
mirror.
And when you say it takes the words back to them...
Kind of knocks them back in their mouth.
Interesting.
It stops their attempt.
Well, I have, in a matter of full disclosure, I have to admit that you once told me something to do. I had a negative situation, and you told me a simple thing to do, and it wasn't to harm anybody or anything like that. Neither you nor I would do anything to harm anyone.
No, I wouldn't.
But it was just to help me get through a particularly difficult situation. And I'm not going to say what it was, and I'm not going to say what you told me to do. But at the time, I found it. I was like, "Wow, that's kind of strange." But you know what? It did work.
It usually does.
I will say this: it did involve a refrigerator.
Yeah, I know what you did.
Yeah, and it did work, and it was fascinating.
Most of the spells I have, I've got them in this book. I made a small book, but these are ones that Sybil gave me herself. Horseshoes, always hang them with the horns up.
Really? For good luck?
Yeah, because if you hang them with the horns down, the luck will go out.
Now, do you hang it in any particular area of the home? Or?
Usually people, if they have a front door or a gate.
Well, you know what fascinates me, Christine, and I know this all must just tie back in together, because it's like we're talking about putting herbs or things in certain parts of the home, or a horseshoe, and then of course there's the Eastern idea of feng shui. I mean, all of this is really energy, and what's amazing about it is this is all the intangible which science would deny, yet our history in various cultures, these folks did this for thousands of years, and you'd think certainly, if it had that bad a track record, people would quit doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Strawberry leaves. Strawberries are very good for diabetes, by the way.
Really? Mm-hmm. And what does a person do with those leaves if they are diabetic?
Eat the whole strawberry, including the leaves.
Daily?
I like strawberries.
Daily, or?
Yeah. Just a couple of days or a day. It's supposed to be very good for diabetes. Don't put sugar on them.
Fascinating.
Oh, another thing you can do if you want to attract your lover's attention, spit on the ground where you know they're going to walk.
Really?
They will immediately start thinking of you.
Spit on the ground where you know they're going to walk.
Yeah, don't let anyone see you doing it.
Right, because then you might be a stalker. That's interesting, because, I know that there are a lot of men and women who listen to Karma Air, and they listen quite often because they are wanting to know about ways to better their relationships. My show, we don't talk about relationships though that much, but the other shows, a predominance of that information does have to do with love relationships and mending. And
Wicca is smarter. We have hand fastings. We don't subject people to saying you've got to be married for the rest of your life. We have hand fastings, and
What's that? Hand fasting?
Hand fasting, yeah, it's like what you call marriage, but we call it hand fasting, and the high priest or high priestess does the hand fasting and enjoins them to go their way and be peaceful. If at the end of a certain amount of time it comes out that they're not meant for each other, we do a hand separation. They're enjoined to take care of their children and pay their alimony or whatever, go their way in peace.
See, now, Christine, that's far too reasonable. We can't be having that.
Well, I'm sorry. It's very good.
I'm just kidding.
So you don't have all these crazy divorces and fighting and screaming and, oh, God.
And terrible crimes of passion that we see on the
No.
news where something horrible has occurred.
No, we just say that people do grow apart. They change. They evolve. And you marry somebody at 18, and when you're 28, you're going, what the hell did I marry?
Right. Well, I do wish that we could update our ideas. I mean, some of the things that we do, even in the 21st century, are completely anachronistic at this point and are just not biologically or psychologically viable all of the time.
They're not sane, because people kill each other in bad marriages. But if you can go to somebody and just say, I want a hand separation and calm it down. The other thing is, if you want to always have money in the house, you throw a piece of silver into the house on the new moon and leave it where it falls. It's got to be silver.
Silver?
Like a dime.
So stand outside the door or something and pitch it into the house on the new moon and just let it stay where it is.
That's right.
Fantastic. I'm going to do that. Well, I tell you what, we're down to like our last minute and a half, and you are the real witch. So I would like to ask you, on this Halloween of 2007, is there any wisdom or ideas that you would like to leave myself and the audience with regarding this year's Halloween?
Yeah. The thing of witches is they say this. We say to will, to know, to dare, to keep silent. Those are our golden rules. Because a lot of our stuff is done in complete silence. You mustn't say what you've done or talk about it. It's a very silent religion, but a very beautiful religion, and it's only for those who have done 7 karmas. You have to have been 7 karmas on this earth before you come to Wicca.
Fascinating. Christine, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I enjoyed it.
Well, I did as well, and I know that the audience did, and I would love to have you back on, and perhaps we can get Ray Buckland on with you as well at some point. And for my audience, I want to wish you all a great Halloween. Please be safe wherever you go and whatever you do.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Christine. And everybody else, till next week. And Lon Friend, our good friend, will be on next week. Till next week, don't be afraid of the dark. Just listen to it. I love you. I'm out.